Hey, Jim Roman here, and welcome to a next episode of the Jim Roman Show, where we talk about how to build a better business to build a better life. Welcome. Welcome again. As we welcome people to the channel, I want to say thank you for being here again. This is our second live event, and I'm excited to share the latest topic. Today's topic is a combination of thoughts and things that have happened over the last 7 days since we last did this event. And I just want to again say thank you for being here today and welcome. So I want to start off by talking about your business. And ask you a question. What is your end result with your business? What is your end result? Do you plan on selling your business? You plan on retiring from your business? Are you planning to pass your business on to the next set of successors? Are you planning to build a business that can run without you, freeing you up to do more beyond the business, to have a life? These are some of the questions, if you ever participated in our programs, that I ask quite a bit, because I don't think we think enough into the future about this very topic. And so I want to use today's time to talk about that topic of what kind of business do you ultimately want in an end. So I like to talk for 20 minutes on this very topic, ask you a series of questions, and then the last 20 minutes answer any questions and challenges that you might be facing that you would want me to cover. So, so let me ask you a question. What is your business going to look like at its ideal state? What do you want your business to look like when it's mature and is able to run more without you, or to run without you at all, freeing you up to have a life, do other things like travel, give back to your community, and things like that? So just think about that. Where does this topic come from? So I was working with a client recently who said they didn't have enough time, they were too busy, and I would argue that they weren't happy. And then I started wondering, where do they see their business in the future? Do they plan on being like a job? Do they plan on selling it one day? And these are some questions I don't think we think about. For those of you who know me, I've had several businesses over the years. The first business failed miserably, right? So the exit strategy there was I went out of business. The second business that I had, I was able to sell. This third and fourth business, I was able to sell. This business, I don't plan on selling it. And it got me to thinking. If you listened to my recording the other day, I woke up with a Monday morning motivational. I was talking to a gentleman years ago about his son's business, about his business. He said something profound. If you go back to that recording, he said to me, I don't start a business or buy a business unless I know how I'm going to get out of that business. And I thought that was fascinating. And he said to me, why did you sell your business, Jim? And I said, well, don't you do that? Don't you build a business to sell? He goes, you don't have to. You can build a business and someone else runs it, so that you can start another business so someone can run that. Some people start businesses like my dad and my mom did when I was younger to provide for the family. I don't think they thought about the end. They just thought about now and providing for the family. And so my question I'm asking of you now is, if you're in business for yourself and you've been in business for a while, or even if you're new to business, what is your exit strategy? What do you plan on doing with the business in the future? I never thought about that until the day I had an opportunity where someone wanted to buy it, and I was in a place that I could sell it, and it had me think differently. And now I think differently in every business that I get involved in, start in, or coach it. So last question I'll ask you to think about is, if I asked you to paint me a picture of what your business would look like in the future, what would it look like? Would you have a team of people? Would you have multiple locations? Would you be national, international? Or do you plan on having just a lifestyle business that provides you enough to pay your bills, maybe a little bit towards retirement, but nothing any more significant than that? See, what I think happens is, if we can paint a picture for what we want our life to look like in the future, in this case, our business look like in the future, we're more likely to achieve it. Would you agree? Comment below your thoughts. For me, I got to thinking about my business. I've been doing this business for 15 years, and I'm doing fairly well, but I could be doing more, better, bigger if I had an end in mind. I didn't have an end in mind. I love what I do. Let me be very clear. I love what I do and who I serve. But I never thought about the end. I mean, why wouldn't you stop doing what you're doing if you love what you do? So I want you to think about that today. So I have some notes here that I want to look at. Whether you're trying to go to $250,000, $500,000, or $1 million in revenue, I think it applies to all of us that we need to know what that end looks like. And I'll give you some examples for myself. So in reflecting on what I wanted my business to look like ideally, do I want to sell it? Do I want to have successors? What? I got to thinking, why am I not there now? Why am I not going there faster, quicker than before? And it got me thinking. When I was in the military, I would work hard to get to the next rank. I would go from airman to sergeant, and I did what it took to get to the next rank. You fast forward into my civilian life, I studying martial arts. What I did in the martial arts world was I would work for the next rank. I would go from white belt to yellow belt to purple belt to brown belt to ultimately black belt. And I knew that I wanted to be a black belt, and I worked towards becoming a black belt in karate, and I achieved that. And there's an interesting thing when I think you have an end in mind that you're more likely to get it there quicker, faster, right? And so I got to thinking about that in the personal life. That when I used to own several franchises back in the day, in the franchise system, the end in mind in that case was I wanted to be in the top 20 in the world, the top 20 in the country. There was over 200 directors at that time, and I don't know what rank I was at the time, but by the time before I sold my business, I happened to end up in the top 20. Never got to the top 10, but the point there, if you get, is that I saw an end in mind, and that was to build a bigger business, have more chapters than my colleagues, but then be in the top 10. In this case, I was 17th out of 20. Out of 200, I was 17th. And so I just got to thinking about that. Is when I was in the military, I was going for the next rank. When I was going in martial arts, I was going for a black belt. And then when I was in the franchise business, I was trying to get in the top 10. And each time that I had that end in mind, I either hit it or came close to it. And I'm wondering, as business professionals, business owners, do we have an end in mind? And so I want to ponder that for a moment. Have you think? I'll look at the comments below and see what some of the things that you are thinking right now. So I want to thank everyone who's joining us. Amy, it's good to see you. Don, it's good to see you. Trish, it's good to see you. So what can you do with this information? I think for me, I was recently talking to a client, and we're working towards getting into $1 million or more in revenue. And there are certain things that you, I think, need to let go to grow, right? And by letting go, you can grow, whether that's letting go tasks that you shouldn't do. We talked a little bit about that last week. If you go to our blog at jimromanonline.com and check out our blog, we talked about letting go to grow part 1. I'm working on part 2 very, very soon. And I think that if we can get to a point where we paint this picture of what we want our business to look like and work towards it, it makes a big difference. And I'll give you another example. I think I talked about this last week. One of my former mentors was sharing a story on one of his podcasts that he built a business 30 years ago. He started it, and he painted a picture, an organizational structure that he saw in the future. And he'd have operations, he had sales, he'd have service, he'd have a distribution, he had training division. Then he had this org chart. If I remember correctly, he had 15 people on that org chart. And he put his name in the positions that he happened to be doing at that time. And he found, if you remember me saying this last week, his name was in 8 of those 15 positions. And he realized at that moment that if he wanted to get to the bigger business that he wanted, that him doing 8 of those 15 positions was not going to get him. And he said in the podcast that he started putting himself out of a job. And over time now, he has a billion dollar company, and he travels the world doing what he loves to do, as well as spending time with his family in Texas. And that was really inspiring to me. And so I want to ask you this question on what can you do to start painting that picture for the future? If your family is in your business with you, is your family going to run your business when you're no longer in that business? Are you going to hire a general manager? Are you going to hire a president to run your company and things like that? Those are some of the questions that I would be asking myself. I think ultimately what I'd be looking at, if you wanted to let go to grow, go to the next level, you want to understand the stages of business ownership. I promised I would go over this week, and I think it's the pivotal point of our topic. And I wrote an article on this that will be coming out tomorrow on the stages of business ownership. And if you know anything about the stages of ownership, most people think there's only 2 stages, broke and really broke. But there's actually 9 stages an owner will go through in the life of their business. In the beginning stages, the business owns them, and the later stages, they own the business. And I don't know that people know that. I know for me in my previous business, I just thought the stages were working really hard and don't have very much money. Or I make a little bit of money, but if I stop working, then I stop my money income. And I never knew there were different tiers and different levels of the stages of ownership until one day, my last business I talked about, I built it up to what I call stage 8, business maturity. Business maturity is when the business can run without you, you have plenty of money to do what you want to do, and you go do it. I was blessed to have a manager who managed that business for me while I ran this business. You would call that a stage 8 business. At that time, this business was a startup business 15 years ago. And I didn't realize the significance of the stages of business because my first business, the successful business, paid me a good amount of money and afforded me to hire a manager. This business 15 years ago was, again, just a startup. I couldn't pay my bills to save my life if I just did this business. Because I had both businesses at the same time, I had one life in my mind at the time. I didn't think anything of it till the day I was about to sell it. I get a phone call from one of my colleagues from one of our retreats. And he said, Jim, you missed the pivotal point of the 9 stages of business. Now, let me take a moment here to tell you what the 9 stages are. Stage number 1 is concept stage. It's probably one of the most exciting stages because you're excited, you have an idea, and you want to put it into practice. Some of you have an idea of starting a business, and I say, enjoy that while you can. Stage 2 is startup. Now you're going to actually put it into practice, get your business license, get your bank account, and make your first sale. Then if you're lucky to get to stage 3, which is survival, you realize that the business is harder than you expected it to be, that funds are starting to dry up, and you're wondering if you made the right decision. Quiet desperation sets in. But if you push through that mental, physical, emotional roadblock that you will face, you'll get to stage 4, which we used to call stability, but now we call it false stability because you're not really stable, because if you stop, the business stops. And so it's called false stability. Then you eventually get to growth, then you get to expansion, then you get to false maturity, then to maturity, and then if you choose to do it, succession. And I was first introduced to this concept by 2 gentlemen from Ireland, Mort Murphy and John Heen, and I got to tell you, it was a game changer for me, because if you know me, back then I just really thought there's only 2 stages: broken, really broke, working really hard, and not having a life. And so when I built up my first business to a point where I can live the life that I had, and I had this business, I just was like, wow, this is awesome. But that phone call made the biggest difference, because one of my colleagues said, Jim, you have to be very careful of stage 4 if you make it, because it's false stability, not stability. Because again, if you stop, the business stops. And where the falseness comes in is that you're making money, so you don't think about it until you stop. Now, if you're in stage 3 and you're in survival, and you're wondering if you can make it to stage 4, I'm going to say most likely you can. A lot of times going from stage 3 to stage 4, usually from 150,000 to 300,000, it's usually a mental issue or not having the right accountability support to push you through that problem. Because a lot of times I have people get to $200,000 of revenue and go, oh, I can't do it anymore, I can't do it anymore. No, you got just a little bit more. And I push them through to the other side of 250 to 300,000, and all of a sudden they go, oh, I can breathe, I made it. No, you haven't made it. You've only made it to the next mountain. There's another mountain to climb. And again, you can read that article, comes out tomorrow on our blog, that was well written by my communications director. I'm so excited to share it with you. I wish I had it out today. And so what I'm getting at with the 9 stages of business, if you understand that the early stages of owning your business, it really owns you. And the later stages of business, you own it. And that's, I think most people don't think about that end in mind, because I didn't know that that even existed. I mean, I did, because it was part of just what I was doing, but it wasn't until I sold my successful business to do this business that I realized I just gave up a stage 8 business for a stage 3 business. I was like, what? And I didn't realize how good I had it. Now, would I have sold that business knowing what I know now? Yes and no. I would have kept that business for the cash flow to be able to fund this business and other businesses and other nonprofit opportunities. But at the same time, I'm glad I sold that business because now I can be in some of the shoes that are listening right now, that you're still in survival. You're not making enough money. You're not paying your business. And with COVID hitting, it's probably even hurting more, that you didn't have enough money saved up, like the book Simple Numbers tells you to do. So what can you do about the 9 stages? I think one is understanding there are 9 stages of business ownership, and that makes a big difference. And know that each stage along the way, you can actually counter. And I'll go over ways of countering those stages right now. So in the beginning stages, the first thing that I would be doing is figuring out what drives you. What drives you? What is your motivation for being in business other than making money? We have a product we call the 5 Drivers. You can check that out at the5drivers.com, spelled out. The5drivers.com will tell you all about it. But in the 5 Drivers, there are 5 key questions we ask you. 3 of the key questions I can share with you now is number 1, knowing why you do what you do, your purpose and passion behind your product. So often when things get tough, when money gets tight, we start questioning our value. We question whether we should be doing this. And I say we should be questioning why we did it in the first place. Why do we want to help the people that we want to help? And a good book on this is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. In the book, he talks about, so often we talk about what we do and how we do what we do, but we rarely talk about why we do what we do. And I believe if you can find your why, your purpose and passion, it starts to drive you through the tough times. It drives you to the next stage. Then if that doesn't drive you enough, then it's asking the second question we ask is, where do you want to be beyond your business? What is your dreams and aspirations? What are the things you want to do for fun, to give back? And a lot of times people know their purpose and passion, but they haven't thought about what they want to be doing in the future when the business is running itself. You would call this, what do I want to do in retirement? And I'll be honest with you, retirement's too far down the road to start living that kind of life. I want to live my retirement life now. I want to live it now. And so for me, if you ask me why I want to do what I do and where I want to be, is I want to be enjoying food and wine with my family, my friends. I want to do more of that now. I don't want to wait till retirement to do more of that now, because most people who retire at a late age don't get to enjoy the full fruits of their labors. And if you know my story, my dad is a perfect example of that. You can read that on my bio. And so if you know why you do what you do, your purpose and passion, you start to get excited. You know where you want to be beyond the business, having fun and starting having fun. You then have to figure out, what does your business need to look like? Not only now, but in the future. In the future. Because I think if you can see it, you're more likely to achieve. If you can see it, you're more likely to achieve it. But I have to believe that most people aren't thinking about the future because of COVID. They're not thinking about the future because of their finances. They're not thinking about COVID because of their situation. And I'm not trying not to get emotional, but I say, start thinking about that again. Think about what kind of business you want to have, what kind of life you want to have, and start painting that picture, because we will get through this. We will get through these difficult times. It may take longer than I ever expected, but I know that through all the difficult times I've been through, from 2008 to the bubble to 9/11, is you continue to care about the people around you. You continue to care for your clients. You continue to care for your contacts, your connections, and your community. In the end, you will survive. You will survive. You'll survive. That's why we're doing this. The reason why I'm doing this is because I know it's difficult. I know it's challenging for you. But I think that if we can work towards the future, shoot towards the future, we're going to get through this. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to try to make it simpler. Simpler. So I want to take a moment now to look at the comments, see how things are going. Hopefully I can pull this up accurately, because right now, because of the way my system is set up, I'm not sure if I'll be able to read all the comments. But I'll continue to finish up this segment and then answer any questions that I can for you. So with that being said, we have Heather. Good to see you, Heather. Thanks for being on. Don, good to see you. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So where do we go from here? So I want to leave you with a couple of things or tools that you could use to help you to paint that picture. And I think this is important. Whether you're watching this now or you watch this later, I got to thinking that most people in business don't have that future picture because they've never had a successful business to picture, right? Like if it wasn't for my first business that I was able to build to be a big business and be successful, I probably would have the small business mindset. So a couple of books that made the difference for me to be able to paint the picture in the future is, one of the first ones was E-Myth by Michael Gerber. E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And what I love about this book is that Michael talks about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. E is for entrepreneur. And he talks about the three types of business mindsets. He talks about the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And he says that there are a lot of, the thing that I really loved about it is that he said, a lot of technicians go into business who've never managed or been an entrepreneur before, and they don't grow because they're thinking like a technician. And then there's the entrepreneur personality that thinks about the future, but doesn't think about managing the business or doing the business. And then there's the manager who's looking for the technicians and looking for the future. And knowing what type of person you tend to be will determine where you're going to go in the future, right? So if you're a technician, what are you doing to manage and look towards the future as an entrepreneur? If you're an entrepreneur, who's doing the technical side? Who's doing the management side? There's a lot of times there's entrepreneurs who are building these businesses and they're horrible managers, and the technicians quit time and time and time again. And so I recommend you reading the book, going into more detail of this. But again, I had realized for myself that I was a good technician and I was too much of an entrepreneur. In other words, I was thinking too far into the future and not getting my work done. And when I was getting my work done, I wasn't doing very well in the future. And it wasn't until I developed my management skills and my management team that I have a balance. Now I have technicians, I have managers, and then I can look towards the future. And so this is a great way of looking at your business differently than what it looks like now. Another book that I highly recommend is Built to Sell by John Warlow, and essentially taking the E-Myth and putting it into practice. What I love about this book, Built to Sell, it's not about really selling your business. It's about building a business that can run smoothly, effectively, and profitably. And he tells a story about a gentleman who has an ad agency who is trying to be all things to all people. And because he's trying to be all things to all people, he doesn't have a life and he really isn't making money. And so he gets a mentor who guides him, a mentor, a coach that guides him to simplify his business, put some focus to his business, and build a business that can run without him, so that one day if he ever does want to sell his business, he can, and for a lot of money. And so whether you want to sell your business or not, I would love for you to get to a point where your business provides a life and an income to enjoy. Another book I came in contact with that really, really made a difference in stretching my mind and what I want the business to look like in the future is Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. And in this book, it talks about how the book Good to Great for big businesses, Small Giants is for small businesses. And it's about 6 companies who chose to be great versus huge. And I actually got to talk to a bunch of these business owners. I went on a venture back in the day to visit them. One of the stories is the Zingermans out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, Zingerman's Deli. And what I love about Zingerman's Deli, it's a perfect model of what you could do with your business to paint a picture into the future. And we met up with Ari, and we interviewed Ari about how he was putting his why to work. And if you read the story about Zingerman's, they have 7 businesses at the time. They had 7 businesses. They had a deli business, which started the Zingermans in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And then they had a direct mail business that direct mail the products from the deli business. Until one day, Ari went to his partner, Paul, and said, Ari, I want to get bigger. How can we go do that? And he happened to do this during lunch rush, pulling Paul aside, and Paul said, well, we could talk about it, but can we do it not during lunch rush? And Ari said, fine. And so they end up talking about how they can expand. And the challenge was they didn't want to expand internationally or nationally because they felt they would lose the quality of the work and experience of the customers. So they ended up expanding in the town of Ann Arbor, Michigan. So they had a deli, they had a direct mail business, they have a bakery, they have a creamery, they have a coffee shop with chocolate, they have a training company, and they have a restaurant. And so what I love about that is that if you were looking to work within their organization and you don't want to be in the deli, but you want to be in the restaurant, you have that option. If you want to become a trainer, or you work in the creamery, or the coffee shop, or in the bakery, you have other options than going to your competitors. And what I love about this company, they're, by the way, $40 million companies, combined 7 companies. And that was 10 years ago when the book was first written. The new edition has come out that I'm looking to read to hear the upside stories, because not all these businesses are in business, but some of them are doing great, some are doing okay, and then some did not do so well. But the thing that I love about the book the most, though, it gave me 6 different examples of 6 different ways of building a business, whether it's a software development company, a recording studio, a brewery, a restaurant, a training company, a hospitality company, that I never thought possible I could do with any of my businesses. Do I want to be small? That's okay. There's a story about that. Do I want to be big? There's a story about that. Do I want to have multiple businesses and be successful with those multiple businesses? There's a story about that as well. So So what I'm getting at is I really want to know what your life and your business is going to look like in the future. You know, are you going to sell your business? Are you going to keep your business to be a lifestyle business? Are you going to have your family take over your business? And all those other questions that come to my mind. And then the question is then what are you going to do to paint that picture for the future? Very similar to me, I talked about earlier, that when I was in the military, I wanted to achieve the next rank. When I was in martial arts, I wanted to achieve the next belt. When I was in the franchise business, I wanted to reach the next level. When I got into this business, I didn't think about the next level. I just thought about serving. But in the process of serving others, I stopped serving me. I stopped trying to go for that end in mind. And so I want to finish up this last part section and then answer your questions and respond to your comments if you so choose. And that is Parkinson's law. One of the other questions in the 5drivers.com product is we ask you, when do you want all this happen? When do you want to have a mature business? When do you want to have a life beyond the business? When do you want to have enough money to have a life beyond the business and give back? Because I think if you can pick what we call a business maturity date in the future, very similar to I was trying to pick a goal of getting my black belt or getting the next rank in the military or to be able to get in the top 10 to top 20 in my franchise system, when do I want a mature, successful business that I can be proud of? And we call that a business maturity date. Because I believe if you have a deadline, you're more likely to achieve it than if you just hope you hit it. I remember doing the workshop on the 5 drivers, specifically talking about business maturity date, and a gentleman in the back of the room hit himself in the head. He goes, "Oh my gosh." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I wish I would have met you 10 years ago, because for the last 10 years, I've been saying, one day I hope to be successful. One day I hope to have a mature business. And I never picked a date. Never picked a date. And so for all I know, I passed it, right? And I don't want you to pass it. I want you to live the life. You know, this series is about building a better business to what? Build a better life. And so I came across this the other day, and it keeps on coming up, and I want to share this with you again from last week. Are you familiar with Parkinson's law? Parkinson's law is the adage that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. It is sometimes applied to growth of bureaucracy in an organization. So essentially, Parkinson's law says if you have 30 days to get something done, you'll take the whole 30 days to get it done. If you have an exam coming up next week, you'll probably wait till the last day to study for that exam. Now, not everybody does that. I was that type of person. I would study the day before the exam. Another great example is right before you go to vacation. I always said this, I didn't know this is Parkinson's law, but I find right before a vacation, we get more done before that vacation than any other time of the year. Why? Because we have a deadline, we have a goal in mind, we have something we want to do, and so we get rid of the stuff that's not most important and focus on what is important so that we can get on that vacation sooner than later. So I say we should apply the Parkinson's law to our businesses, that we paint a picture that somewhere in the next 2 to 3 years, we want to have a mature business to get us the life that we always wanted, so that we can enjoy more than just work, more than just our business, more than just our job. So again, I think if we can apply a picture towards the future, and again, there's many books on the subject, whether it's Small Giants, talking about E-Myth and creating a franchise-like business. There's a book, Vivid Vision, that talks about painting a vivid vision by Cameron Harold. I want to charge you with this thought process. Your homework assignment, if you choose to accept this mission, is as follows. Is take time after this recording, set some time aside this weekend, and ask yourself the following question. What do I want my business to look like in the end? Maybe you can ask yourself, what do I want my business to look like when it's fully mature and can run with or without me? What do I want my business to look like as it relates to people? Do I want to be the only person in it? Or do I want to have the blessing of hiring other people and providing for their families? Or do I want to have a business that is so big, and I don't mean huge, but big enough that I can give back to my family, give back to myself, and give back to my community? I'll be asking myself that question, and have been asking myself this question this week until the weekend, to really paint that picture, because I realized the other day that when I owned a franchise, I was trying to be the best franchise. When I was in martial arts, I was trying to be the best martial artist. In this business, I was just trying to give, but I never thought about getting the kind of life that I wanted, because I love what I do, but there's so much more I can do for other people. So as I finish this portion of our training today, our talk today, I just want to thank you for joining. I'm going to stop this in a moment and answer any questions or comments that you like for me. If you need to go, I understand that. But again, this was on my heart today. Go to our website to read our blog at jimromanonline.com. Tomorrow will come out, we will release our 9 stages of business ownership, and that'll go into more details. I'll probably do a part 2 on how to calendar those challenges, like the 9 stages, the 5 drivers, the 5 functions, the balanced business, and other tools to help you combat those stages so that you can get to the point that you always wanted to. But I would really ask myself those questions. So I want to thank you for joining for this section of our talk and training today. And as always, my name is Jim Roman, national speaker and business coach. And remember, the more you know, the more we grow. So hopefully they found this of value. Now I'll look at the comments and answer any questions. Thank you. So, comments and questions. So, hey Jim, hey Mark, good to see you. All is well. I am doing very well from the perspective of, I'm alive. I don't have COVID. I live in Florida. It's beautiful, it's sunny, and I know people like you. I do love seeing people come in on these things. We'll continue. If you find this of value, we'll do that. Ashley, thank you for sharing. As I mentioned before, if there's things that you'd like for us to cover, please feel free to comment below. If you get this recording after the fact of our live event, please feel free to comment again, because I'll be checking those comments regularly. So I want to be able to share that as well. So as we finish up, see if there's any last questions or comments. Just added all 3 books to my Amazon wish list. Excellent. Which one would I start with? You might want to email me or message me, Mark. I would love to guide you a little bit. And those who don't know, so I love Built to Sell. I read this book, I think, in 3 days. It was that powerful. E-Myth, what I love about that, it just gave me different paradigms. So this gives me the paradigm I'm talking about thinking about business differently, and then how to make that happen. And then Small Giants was great at painting a picture of what it was like to, because I was raised in the restaurant business, so there's a hospitality group. There's a gentleman out in California who, he has 6 restaurants at the time, and he has different types of restaurants. He has a fast food, fine dining, and so the reason why he did that, because he kept on losing his employees to other restaurants. So he created multiple restaurants with multiple themes, so that if you didn't like being in the bar business, you can go into the fine dining. If you want to be in the fine dining, you can go into a casual dining. And now I think he even has one in Las Vegas, and he's still doing very well with everything that's going on. Any other last comments or questions for anybody? Don, any last questions or comments for anybody? So I will finish this up. So in closing, as we finish this up, I would encourage you to send your comments, message me, let me know what topics you want us to cover. I would love to cover those topics. So as we finish up, it seems that we've covered most of the questions and comments. Don has been great enough to post a lot of the things that we just got done talking about. So again, I thank you for joining us. Join us next week, same time, same bat channel. We'll be doing it Wednesday at 12 o'clock. The Jim Roman Show, part 3. And send us your comments, questions, concerns, or things you'd like for us to cover. Again, I'm Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we grow. Have a great day.